Hello, everybody. Your Bread and Butter podcast. I'm Andrew Beaudry.
And I'm Ryan Cummings.
Today is hidden links in your financial life.
The goal of today is to discuss those little leaks, those extra expenses in your day-to-day life that maybe you don't realize, maybe they're not top of mind, that you're spending more than what you may have expected. So we're going to discuss what some of those common leaks are and how to fix them in today's episode.
See you in a bit.
Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors Incorporated, a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Private Financial Design LLC are not affiliated.
Bread and butter.
Today is hidden leaks in your financial life. It's like drips in the faucet. If you ever have a drip in your faucet, you just put a cup underneath that. You wake up in the morning, you realize, oh, it's overflowing. There's a lot more. Those drips kind of add up. That's kind of what hidden leaks in your financial life are like.
That's actually a perfect analogy. It's the, one drip, two drips, three drips doesn't seem like a lot, but as they add up, as they last for an extended period of time, they can make a big difference over the long run. And so today's episode is really designed to, be for the person who's ever looked at their bank account and saw their income and maybe thought, well, my balance should be higher. I should have more than this in that account. And maybe you didn't go on a shopping spree. You didn't, have a big purchase, because sometimes there's an obvious reason for that, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's, I went out to eat a few too many times this month, or maybe there's an extra few Amazon packages at the door, throughout the month here too. So sometimes there's a reason for it. Other times, maybe there's just that feeling of, well, where'd the money go?
Exactly. And most people actually don't have a spending problem. It's really an awareness problem. Mm-hmm. And here's why it matters. Nearly 67% of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, even many earning six figures. And this is a fact, and that's kind of what's out there. The truth is, awareness is a big part of it. Yes, I realize, particularly now, we got gas prices through the roof. We got all these expenses that are going crazy. Again, though, there's some awareness that has to be brought into this, and it's not a political problem, it's a personal awareness issue.
And part of that awareness issue is even just the underestimating that the average person does. The one statistic shows that Americans underestimate their spending by approximately 2.5 times what they actually spend, the reoccurring stuff. And I think we see that all the time. I mean, when we're doing retirement projections for clients and we talk about their expenses, how much they need each month now versus in retirement, I would say 90+% of people underestimate their spending in some way or another. Others are farther off than some people are farther off than others. But it's very common.
Yeah, sometimes it's kind of it's chuckle worthy actually. Mm-hmm. So you have somebody comes in between the both of them, they're making $140,000, and they're thinking, oh, we can live on $40,000 a year. We got our mortgage paid, and there's $40,000 a year. Okay, you're going to be on welfare somewhere along the line there. You can't. You're not $40,000 a year when you're living at 140. So subscriptions actually are a part of that first step in finding those quiet, consistent leaks. And they have apps out there that help you find these subscriptions to cancel.
Yeah. There's lots of them now that for those people that don't want to, although, I will say to find those subscriptions, a lot of times just a simple combing of your bank statements can sometimes suffice, but some people need a little help, and they have those apps that you can pay for a subscription to get rid of your subscriptions.
And then you got to get a subscription to get rid of the subscription.
Right.
But I think looking at the bank account, credit card statements, that helps you actually be more aware. Particularly when you're looking at a credit card statement, you go, oh, I bought that. Oh, I bought that. Oh my goodness, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think the goal today is we want to, go over some of those major categories because they add up. We're talking hundreds of dollars a month. The average is over $200 a month on subscription spending. So over 70% of consumers say it's easy to forget about these recurring expenses. So it's
especially with auto pay.
Exactly. So with auto pay and automated, subscriptions renewing each month, it's an easy thing to sometimes you sign up for one and maybe you were expecting to only use it for 3 months, 6 months, and you kind of just let it go. And now 3 years later, it's been charging you ever since. So
Yep.
the goal today is we're going to look at some of those major categories, help you identify them, and then give some practical solutions to reducing those hidden leaks.
Yes. Now, it actually reminds me of the time period when, and I've talked about this before, when basically ATM cards came out. And, people would just take out money thinking it was like unlimited. And then they get all these overdrawn fees. And I would call the ATM cards an automatic troublemaker because that's, people were taking out cash. But that was far better because they were penalized when they went over it, and it made them kind of change their behavior.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about some common financial leaks that really are more for everybody that fit there. So
yeah, these are some of the categories. We're going to dive into each of these in more detail, but you can see some rough averages on the per month budget that people spend in some of the most common areas where you see these financial leaks. So we already touched on one, subscriptions. We'll dive a little deeper there, but others like food and delivery services, or even just kind of the overall category of what we call convenience spending. Convenience spending, I think, is a good the way to think of it is it's a luxury. It maybe shouldn't be an everyday thing. And then other things like bank fees, interest on your debts, and then unused memberships, things like that. We'll dive into more examples with each of these, but these are some of the most common categories that we'll find people overspending.
Yeah, just recently we did a whole episode actually on how to read your statements, insurance policies, payments from insurance companies for your health care, your auto insurance, car insurance, home insurance, your financial statements, particularly banks, as well as your advisory statements if you have an investment advisory firm. Looking at those things and finding out, hey, I have a $200 deductible on my car insurance. You probably save a couple $100 a year if you made your deductible at $500 or even $1,000 if you really had enough money in your bank to cover that. So again, it's a way. There's ways to reduce and be aware of spending money that you don't really need to spend.
Exactly. So on that note of awareness, lifestyle and convenience spending, we kind of started to touch on it. To dive deeper into what that might be, it's kind of this trap. It's this, it's only a few extra dollars trap for the convenience of a lot of the different services that are out there. I think the most common one that fits this category is the food delivery, your DoorDashes, your Uber Eats, those sorts of things that can deliver food to you, deliver the takeout right to you, or even rideshare services like your Ubers or your Lyfts. While they can be nice luxuries, on a special night that you want to be able to have the convenience of just staying at home and relaxing and doing it every night. That extra convenience fee that's charged to Uber, and then you got to tip the driver, or at least a little something maybe. Yeah. And then there's all, and then delivery fees too on top of that, you're getting tacked on, and next thing you know, there's $10, $15, $20 in fees from an order that you could have picked up yourself.
Correct. Exactly right. So I think sometimes what people don't understand is that, they don't think they have a money problem as far as spending. They just think they have a problem paying it back. And so they don't realize that convenience, that idea of, well, I'll just do this. I'm here at the store. I know it's $2 more but I don't want to bother, getting it there, and I'm here now, so I'll just go ahead and get it. It's a waste of money. Nobody ruins their finances with one bad decision. It's death by 1,000 well-packaged conveniences, because everybody's out there that's trying to make it more convenient, and you'll spend the money to do it.
Exactly. That's that drip metaphor we were using earlier. It's just they add up over time. And so another big area that we see some of these leaks come into play is banking and cash flow leaks. Fees, essentially, is what we're talking about here. You even already kind of gave an example of the ATM fees. I've been guilty of that here and there. We especially now staying at my in-laws' house while we're doing some renovations. My bank's ATM is all the way, not only in a different town, but across town from the different town. And so, it's that much farther. So since I've been there, we've been once or twice. I've had to stop at a different ATM and
pay the $3.50.
They pay the $3.50, but then my bank charges the $3.50, so it's a $7 fee because you get hit on both ends.
Ouch!
Just to withdraw some cash.
Yeah.
And so, everyone's guilty of it. I think it's the whole theme here, though, is how often are you doing that?
Right. I mean, if it is part of your lifestyle and you did it regularly, it would be a killer. That would be a killer. So you got to look at your cash flow, think about a few things, maybe plan your trips, in a way that you can get to the stores that you need to get to, that kind of thing. People that do shopping regularly for themselves, whether it's food or clothing, I have a very man-specific mindset about it. So when I go to get clothing, if I don't find it online and the deal I want, and I want to go into a store, I make sure that I'm only looking at what I want to look at for what I need. It's really easy to go over to the sale aisle. Ooh, look at that suit. It's half off. Ooh, I could use a new suit. Anyway, you have to plan out your adventure when you're spending your money.
Kind of the same idea of don't go to a grocery store hungry. Only go there to get what you need.
Well, does that mean you go to the clothing store naked? I mean, I don't know. Is that... But key insight here, fees, when you spend it, don't mean that you're bad with money. They usually just mean that you need some type of adjustment to your lifestyle. But even small fees can add up to hundreds of dollars per year. So you have to look at it in the right way.
Yeah, I just had a client the other day that I was working with. We were working on some cash flow issues, and they had noticed this account maintenance fee in, I think it was just their regular savings account.
Yeah.
And so they're asking me, well, should I switch banks? Like, do a lot of banks charge this fee? And I was like, no, that's for regular savings. It's relatively uncommon. It happens, but a little uncommon to see this, I think it was a $10 a month fee that they were paying just to maintain the account. Well, come to find out, that maintenance fee is waived if you had more than a $250 balance in the account. They just weren't keeping that money in there. It was just kind of they weren't even really using the savings account. It was just kind of a floater for a few extra bucks they had. Yeah. And so the simple solution was, instead of having to change banks, just keep a little more. And you're now saving yourself $120 a year on this account maintenance fee. So again, little things like that, like you said, it can add up to hundreds of dollars, over the course of the year.
Exactly right. Subscriptions and automation leaks. This is the quietest money drain. And if you have it set up correctly, you should be getting an email or a text. I know on Apple, I get that all the time for anything I do.
As they renew.
Right. Like, here's coming up, it's going to renew. But the same thing's true for magazines. It's true for your applications. And sometimes these applications will come up and I look at them like, have I really used this app in the last year? Is this something I really need? And then I get rid of it. I also go through, at least on Apple, I can go through any of the subscriptions that I have and just, get rid of the ones that I'm not really using. So.
Right. And that's a great point. If you do have an iPhone, they're right in the settings. They have that if you're paying through like Apple Pay or some kind of connected subscription there, they'll have everything listed out so you can see.
But you made a good point earlier. If you check your bank statement and you check your credit card statement, you see $99 for Joe's Fulfillment Center. Wait a second, what's that? So you call the number on and they're like, yeah, you've been a member here for 14 years. Haven't seen you. Oh, great. I've just spent $1,400 over the last, 14 years for something I don't use.
Right.
So again, just nip it in the bud, look at the statements, take the due diligence to do that. It helps.
Yeah, I think the big theme here is, especially with these subscriptions, is just, the convenience is kind of out of sight, out of mind, but it also removes awareness. And so I think it's just make sure you're reviewing as these subscriptions come up periodically. And if there's price increases, reevaluate if it's still worth it. Annual renewals versus monthly, just make sure you're knowing when every subscription is
So
renewed.
sometimes you get a discount if you do auto renewal, which is fine.
Right.
But on the other side of it, I've leaned away from doing auto renewals when I don't get a discount. Streaming services are a part of that.
Yep.
What are some other items people can look for? I mean, apps, software.
Yeah.
What else is kind of like on auto renewal?
It could be certain memberships.
Like music memberships.
Yeah.
People that belong to certain music.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a big thing.
Streaming services and or even those free trials. Those can be
free
those
trials,
can be something
man.
that get a lot of people too. You get that week free trial, the month free trial, and then you forget about it, and you've now
Planet Fitness. I haven't been there since January of 2024. Okay.
So the point is just awareness and making sure you're checking on these things.
Exactly.
Now, the biggest leak that when we were looking at that chart earlier, as far as dollar amount, is debt and interest associated with that.
Yeah.
That is the most costliest. I mean, it's maybe not maybe it's not you have the most different sources, kind of like subscriptions or the bank fees and whatnot, but the actual total cost is often the highest because we're talking, I think the average cause here is credit card debt. People carrying balances. You may be saying this is just going to be a 1 month thing where I'm going to carry this balance. I'll pay it off next month, and the next month come and goes, and maybe you only make a small dent in it, and you got to pay it off the month after that. Interest in a lot of credit cards, we're talking 20, 25, Oof. 30% in some cases, or even higher. It adds up significantly over time, and it compounds.
Compounded interest. That's right. Tens of thousands of dollars. Like, Home Depot, Lowe's, some of these other type of stores, their credit card rates are really high, and people don't realize after the 0% is gone, it reverts back over to that. And, you don't want to be, you want to be, Chase has a name, Chase Credit Card, Chase Bank. And I often wondered if their credit cards are like, it's not like you're chasing your dreams. You're chasing your minimum credit card payments. You're trying to find a way to get your lifestyle, but find a way to do it just on minimum payments. Well, if minimum payments, you're never going to pay that off.
Right. What are they normally a 10-year amortization or something like that? I think on a lot of credit cards when they calculate that.
If you were to look at the bottom of your credit card statement, and let's say you have an outstanding balance, they do have this little thing that says, hey, guess what? If you pay this off over the next 10 years, here's what you're going to owe. $2,000 debt, you're going to end up paying $8,014. Like, oh, really? Oh, my goodness, at minimum payment. So pay attention to some of that.
And I think one of the big ones, you already kind of alluded to it, but I want to expand on it a little bit with credit cards, especially those 0% ones.
Yeah.
There are some of them out there. Some of these don't, some 0% credit cards don't have this clause, but some do. Especially your Home Depots and your Lowe's, your store cards, many of them have this, is the retroactive interest.
Oh, yeah, if you don't pay it back?
Yes.
Oh, so, that's painful.
Maybe you put 10 grand on the card, it's 12 months, 0%. Maybe you pay it down to 5 by the time the 12 months is up. And what happens at the end of that 12 months is instead of just starting your interest at month 13, well, they back charge you the 5 grand that's left on the card as if you owed that 5 grand for the entire 12 months. So your 0% is essentially gone on that portion of the balance. So not every 0% card has that, but some do. And if that's a card you're using, it's all the more important to make sure it's paid off prior to that deadline.
Well, I guess a positive way to look at it is debt is proof that you are very optimistic about what you could do.
Yes. It is.
So pay that 0% off on with a plan. Anyway, unused or misaligned spending is a big part of the problem too. You're paying for a life that you're not really using. So
there's some overlap here, with some of the subscriptions, and this kind of bleeds into all those categories.
It does. I'm going to give an example here. I like hiking and I enjoy it, and I got to meet somebody out on the trail up at UMass a couple summers ago, and they were telling me about an app, and it was called All Trails. Okay, so, and I thought it was pretty cool. It's a cool app and everything. And so I started using it, and it's a very good app. And then, this year it came up, and the app was almost twice as expensive as when I first signed it. And I count the number of times I used All Trails over the last 2 years or so, and it doesn't justify my, because a lot of the trails I go to are already marked out. They're already there, and there's maps there. And I'm like, I don't really need the app, So anyway, it went from $30-something to like $68. I'm like, I don't need that.
Right.
No, that's don't really need it. No, so that's for me though.
But. Yeah, I think it's the theme here is just things that are maybe misaligned with your maybe it was an aspiration or it's a past habit, something you did for a period of time and no longer do, or it was a priority is no longer. I'll even give an example for myself too. Many years ago, we're talking maybe 10 years ago at this point.
So you were just a kid.
Yes. Yeah. Just a kid, just a kid in my mid-20s, but was interested in getting into some archery and bow hunting and whatnot. So, some of my friends and my wife's brothers are into it too. So they kind of got me into it. And I was like, oh, this is pretty fun. And, I think in reality, I probably should have sat down and been like, well, if I was by myself, doing this, is this something I'm going to do on my own? Or is this more like people around me are into it? And, I was kind of into it too. And so I ended up spending more money than I want to admit on a compound bow and and some other
Wait,
equipment.
did you go to Target to get?
I did not go to Target. That's a good one. It's a Bass Pro Shop. But
did you still have it?
I do still have it.
Okay,
I do still have it. But I couldn't tell you the last time it's been used. So that was one of those things that
two
was
young children running around. I don't know, man. Go bow hunting. That's going to be a tough one.
So, but just another example of maybe if I would have put a little more thought into, is that really my priority? My hobby that I want.
I think that can happen professionally. I think you get an app because this would help me in my career, and someday I'll use that, so I'll get this app. Sounds really good. Now you have to really assess it,
right.
And you're not the only person in the world that bought something like that thinking they were going to get into that. But your bank statement often reflects that. You look at it, if your credit card's payment is the same amount as your rent or your mortgage, there might be an issue there. Now, there are people out there that use their credit cards to the full to get rewards and all that. Different story, But if your minimum payment is equal to your rent, you got other issues. So past habits, old priorities, instead of your current reality. You got to look at those things.
Yes, and so those are some of the common areas. I think the next step here is, now that we've kind of identified some of those areas, is just talk more about the importance of this conversation, and then how to fix it. So the big reason we're focusing on this is how these leaks can ultimately undermine your long-term goals. We were talking about compound debt with some of the credit card debt.
Right.
The debt builds on the debt, builds on the debt.
Because the interest keeps creating more interest.
Exactly. Right. And what you're often doing is, you're you are reducing your ability to gain compound interest in your favor and invest by having that sort of debt. You're paying more interest. That's less money you can save, less money you can invest, and have that compounding effect actually work for your benefit rather than against you.
And one of the three positives that I would take out of this is that if you can capture some of that and start it in a small way, then that loss of money turns into a real opportunity for you rather than being a opportunity cost. It's an opportunity benefit by establishing emergency savings, investing consistently, and gives you a financial confidence and a peace of mind that you're evaluating every step along the way as to where your money, because your money is your field, your agriculture, your farm, your career, your money that you earn. That's all yours. And there's plenty of people out there that are trying to take it away from you so that they can earn a living or try to steal your living. So you have to really look at this like this is your field. This is what you are growing. This is your money. So look at it in a way that you own it, protect it, and think about the fact that this is really for you. It's not for somebody else.
And you made a good point there with the peace of mind. Finances are the leading cause of stress for Americans. And so this can be a big addition to that stress, and ultimately, taking care of those leaks, reducing that spending, reducing the debt, et cetera, that's going to give you that extra peace of mind and reduce your overall stress on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis.
Absolutely.
So how do you fix these leaks? What are some practical fixes? You kind of alluded to a couple, but to summarize them all together, there's some of the easy ones, the quick wins, I guess you could call them. The subscription audit, that's what we were talking about earlier. Whether you're using an app like the Rocket Monies of the world or something like that, or you're just auditing your own bank statement. How do you review your spending and identify those subscriptions? Categorizing expenses. We actually have some great tools that we have available for a lot of our clients. Where you can just link your bank account to it and have a nice pie graph of every category where all your money goes, so you have that awareness.
In our Click Advisor program we offer through here, and other firms offer it as well, you can actually have all of your statements come in, and it will actually tell you where your money's being spent, which is a really good thing to do. And basically, if you look at it real closely, and it probably only takes maybe an hour or so, once a week to look at your finances, 1 hour to make sure that your field is growing protective, and you're pulling out the weeds, the things that are hindering the growth between the plants, and that's your field. So take 1 hour a week. Nobody likes weeding, by the way. I've never met a person, no, I can't say that. There was somebody I met who loved weeding. And I loved having them come and weed my garden.
definitely can't say it's a passion of mine.
Not a passion of
everyone's
mine.
got different passions.
Yeah, not mine.
But yeah, reviewing your expenses. I mean, making it even weekly, monthly, even at the very least monthly. That's I think can make a big difference.
Yes.
Now the larger changes, if the quick fixes are going to save you some money, but if you really want to make a difference, that's when you might have to sometimes look at like a system level change, a systematic
behavioral change.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
Yep. So that could be, the setting up some automation. And when I say automation, we're talking about subscriptions. You almost treat your own savings like a subscription.
Yes.
Pay yourself first.
Pay yourself
before
first.
the bills come due. Have money transfer. That's actually a method of budgeting that I personally prefer. And all of our clients who we have budgeting conversations with, I bring this up to them, and I don't think I've had a client yet who's not liked it, but it's a reverse budgeting method where you look at your budget, you budget once, you look at your spending once, break everything down, figure out how much you should be saving. And as long as your saving goals are being met, usually at the beginning of each month, paying yourself first, the rest of the money is, I like to call it guilt-free spending, because as long as the saving targets are being met, the rest of the money is fair game.
One thing about that, though, is that people are like, well, I need $5,000 in emergency savings. I don't have $5,000 to save. Well, actually, if you were to save, even $20 a week, in about 4 or 5 years, you'd have your emergency savings. 4 or 5 years? I don't want to wait 4 or 5 years. Well, it's a way to do it.
Yeah.
Because my thing is, I have experienced what you've experienced. Most people, if they start on a plan, they get there quicker than they think, because they begin to realize, a little bit towards it means a lot towards the end. Like you start doing a little bit now, and any energy that you give towards that makes a positive difference down the road. So this is talking about also, as well as simplifying your accounts.
Right.
Making sure that you know exactly where everything is. If you got 5 different bank accounts out there, well, this one's for Aunt May and this one's for my laundry, and that doesn't really work very well.
Right. And it makes it harder to track everything.
Yeah.
And that's where you might lose some fees in the mix that you're paying, because you've, instead of 1 or 2 bank accounts, you've got 5 or 6 or 7. And that's where the fees or the subscriptions, if you've got things all on these different platforms, it's going to be that much harder to track.
Let's talk a little bit about spending rules, like giving yourself guidelines.
Yeah, so that's, there's lots of different rules out there. So you want to find the one that works for you, but there's one of the main big ones that's I think most commonly talked about is the 50-30-20 rule. Where you're spending, 50% of your expenses towards the needs, the required things, the 30% towards the wants, the variable spending, and the last 20% ideally is savings.
Yeah.
And so, using little rules like that can help you set up where should your money be going. Are you overspending? Are you underspending?
Right.
But at the same time, too, you don't want to put too much stock into those rules, because again, it's a one-size-fits-all thing, which isn't practical to everyone's life.
Right, exactly. And you have to work on your mind. It's really a big part of tracking every dollar. You don't really need to track every dollar, but it's the idea of designing a better system that works for you. Maybe with your bank, or if you're a client of ours, you can go through ClickAdvisor and do that. But you want to make sure that you have intentional spending instead of restricting yourself and feeling like, it's like on a diet. I can't eat anything. I can't eat. No, actually,
makes it easier to stick to.
Right. Not eating anything doesn't help you. It just eats your muscle away. You have to eat protein. You got to take care of your. Just not eating anything. Yeah, you'll lose weight, but you lose muscle mass. Your weight goes down, but then you're walking around like the
not the right kind of weight.
Marshmallow fluff man. Kind of.
Same thing with budgeting. If you're too restrictive, I sometimes call it crash budgeting. It's like a crash diet. They don't last very long.
They don't last.
Crash budget's not going to last very long either. You need to make small adjustments so your lifestyle is still, what you want it to be.
Yeah.
But maybe not what it is if you're someone who's overspending.
All right. Our final takeaways here. Let's list them off. Most financial stress isn't caused by big mistakes. It comes from small, unnoticed leaks that compound over time. Subscriptions you forgot, convenience spending, fees and interest and misaligned habits that really are not working together. Systems that prioritize ease over your intention. You don't need a tighter budget. You need better awareness and better systems in order to take care of your field of growth, what you are growing with your money.
And there's one simple truth that underlies all of this, is that when money leaks silently without your awareness, progress slows loudly. And so fixing these leaks, again, doesn't mean cutting joy like we were saying earlier. Yeah. It just means redirecting money in a way that's intentional, that actually matters, to your priorities in your life.
Exactly.
So if there's any next steps we could give there for anyone out there with advice, is just ask yourself that one question, what am I paying for that isn't improving my life? You find it, you fix it, and let the compounding start working in your favor again.
Yes. And listen, you're free to contact us. And if there's a topic you'd like for us to talk on our podcast, we're happy to do that. If you have questions about this podcast we're doing today, contact us and we'll try to answer them for you. But again, we're really grateful that you paid attention and listened to us today. And remember, live today for that tomorrow that's in your heart.
Because you'll never have more time to save for tomorrow than you do today.
Thank you for listening.
Bread and butter.